So yes, good morning. Thank you guys so much for being here. I was not expecting this turnout, so I'm super excited. Excuse me if I'm a little nervous, but I think you guys are already giving me some good energy. So I want to start by saying thank you to Creative Mornings for inviting me here this morning. It's early morning, so yes, let me get into it. My name is Monai McCullough. And I'm the founder of PLANTMOM. PLANTMOM is an Amsterdam-based company. We specialize in design, styling, as well as maintenance for interior plants. Some of you may know me from doing workshops. Is anyone here who has joined a workshop of mine? 2 people, awesome, so cool. So you don't know me from doing workshops, great. So we guide people just like you living in cities through the complexities of indoor plant care, as well as helping to influence conscious decisions. So today, with the roots theme, of course, so many different things come to mind as plants is my specialty. But I'm going to start this off as I would any of my workshops. By a show of hands, how many people here have a plant at home? Wow, awesome. And raise your hand if you've ever killed a plant. Okay, great. Give yourselves a round of applause because you're doing absolutely fantastic. 85% of the time, plants are, perished. I don't like to say killed too much, by overwatering. So, does anyone identify with overwatering your plants? Yeah? No, don't be shy. I still overwater my plants. But yes. And my last question is, does anyone know what the most important part of a plant is? No. Ooh. Anyone? Sorry? Sunlight, yes, it's important for the process of a plant, but what is the most important part of a plant? Hint, it's the thing. Yes, roots. So the root of a plant actually has about 4 major functions. I swear this is not a workshop. The first one is absorption of water and organic and inorganic nutrients. The second one is the storage of the food and nutrients. The third is the translocating water, so taking the water and nutrients and sending it up to the stem. And the last one, which is my personal favorite, is anchoring the plant body to the ground and supporting it. So my roots begin in New York City. I was born and raised in Queens. I went to school in New York, so I guess I'm a New Yorker, yeah. But my story, or my Amsterdam story, starts July 1st, 2018. It was the day that I uprooted and jumped on a plane and moved to Amsterdam. Well, I didn't really jump on a plane, as I have a 1 in a million story from the flight, where my plane was actually delayed 30 hours. I went into the air, and about an hour and a half in, the pilot comes in the speaker, and he says, so the plane, and he's kind of like, figure out his words here. He says, so the plane is not good enough to go to Amsterdam, so we're going to go back to New York. Excuse me. Now, I'm 23 years old, and I just jumped on a plane with my dog to move to another country, and the pilot is saying that we have to turn around, so I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a sign. This is it. So we get back to New York, and we get on the tarmac, and he's trying to fix the plane. The plane isn't fixed. We have to get off the plane. I have to go back home after I cried. There was snot everywhere. I said hi to my family. So I came back, and there's someone here. Shall we wait? No? Okay, cool. So I came back to my family around 3 in the morning, and said, hey, so I'm back. It was a quick trip, but and waited again 30 hours. So in the time, I was like, okay, well, I still have a decision to make. I'm back in New York. I can say no. I can just stop what I'm doing right now. But I decided to go anyway, and 30 hours later, I landed finally 36 hours later, I landed in Amsterdam. And I was loving it. It was like the hottest summer, like record-breaking temperatures and all of this great stuff. Well, I guess. And I just began to start planting my seeds. I came here to study. And I felt that I was finally here and I could spread my wings and do exactly what I came here to do. And then 34 days after I landed here in Amsterdam, my father died of a massive heart attack. I was 23, it wasn't sick, it was very sudden, and I felt for the first time my life was actually over. I just moved, it was a horrible flight, it was everything, just one after the other, just seemed to go wrong. So I went back to New York for his service, and through many talkings with my mom and with my family and my friends, I decided to come back to Amsterdam. And naturally, I was very depressed. My plant journey doesn't really start here in Amsterdam. 2013, yeah, that was when I bought my first plant out of a just spur of the moment kind of purchase. And I fell in love. I started buying more and more plants. I was like, this is it. I don't know what I'm doing with my life right now. I just moved out of my parents' house. I was like 18, rebel, bunking with my friends from college in a crazy small apartment, but I had windows and I knew it worked. And after that, I just did everything I could to just be around plants. I was working as a florist, which is relative. I was around plants, but I wasn't like around plants. And then after several years of doing that, I went on Craigslist and I applied for this job that just said like horticulture. I was like, yeah, I can do that. And I wind up actually working for one of the few companies at the time in New York that were doing green design and installations. So I applied for this job, and within a matter of weeks, I was going around from offices such as Spotify and TED and watering all their plants. They called us the plant nannies. Very proud of that, walking around offices with my cool like little sash of plant stuff. And I loved it. And later on, I was working there for about a year. And then I decided to move on to a garden center where I can meet people again, because it's very isolating taking care of plants in offices. And that's when I kind of realized, okay, wow, people have no idea what they're doing. I was so used to just being around people who were just like, yeah, that's a plant, we're gonna do that, do this. And working in a garden center, people would come in like real, like, oh man, back. Last time, I killed a plant, and all of this like crazy stuff. So when I decided to move here and study, I knew I wanted to just be around plants and do things with plants. But when I came back after my father's service, I just started collecting plants like I've never collected before. I was just surrounding myself with the different species, carnivorous to variegated to rare plants to cuttings I found on the floor, everything I needed to like fulfill something that was missing. And I found a lot of healing through that. And as time passed and I felt I could come back out and start doing something again, I wanted to share that. So in December 2018, we started our first workshop. I was working at the time at Mediamatic. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Mediamatic. It's an art institution in Amsterdam. And we were working on a project with plants, had to do with plants, and I was asked to just do a workshop with plants. So I was like, okay. It's not really what I envisioned for the business that I wanted, but seemed like a good option. So I went for it. And here was our first workshop. This is all of my friends. I had about 8 people come to this workshop. But I looked super happy because I was. I realized that I could do something different. I pushed myself. I think I was given about 2 weeks to like prepare this, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've never been a teacher before. I've never like taught anyone how to do anything with plants. But then I thought, well, I know what to do, right? I can do that. And since then, we've been able to teach at more places. I've been asked by companies and for private workshops and public workshops with Mediamatic. This is part of one of the series. I have to change my pictures for my workshops now, just in case. But this is one of the series that we created with Mediamatic called the Botanicors. So it's about 4 different classes. They come and go throughout the months. We already have the year 2020 out, so if you guys are interested in any of the workshops that we host there, go for it. The next one is also part of that, so my workshops started growing and growing and growing. By the end of 2019, so just in 1 year, I've taught over 20 workshops and almost 350 students. So I'm super proud of all of this, and sorry, let me just catch my breath. So I'm super proud of all of this, and since the time that I started collecting plants, or the time that I bought my first plant, I could have never imagined that so many people, including everyone here, would be able to support my crazy idea to become a plant mom. To make everyone plant moms and dads, and to establish a new kind of community here in Amsterdam. But since I started teaching workshops, we've also expanded into consultations, design, working with different companies for events. This is what we collaborated with Nike and Soulbox for a special event for a new sneaker. So we made this swoosh out of all living plants. And yeah, it's not still alive. I took all the plants off, but it's not impossible to take care of. It's just not like that logical. It's like 2 meters. As well as interior and restaurants. So this is maintenance that we also do, building green walls, and sourcing large and small plants, as well as developing products, natural horticulture products that sell in a few stores in Amsterdam, Utrecht, and Den Haag. But since I've also started teaching workshops, a lot of people ask me all these questions, and from Instagram to emails. So what am I doing with my plant? It's dying. I'm not sure. It needs more light. I'm giving it water. And it become a bit overwhelming. But sometimes it's nice for me to ask myself, well, what can plants actually teach us? A lot of people come to me to teach you how to take care of plants, but I just wanted to share today some things that plants have taught me about learning how to live and love myself. So plants have taught me how to practice routine and how to remember to water my plants and water my garden. Whether that's my own personal garden or my actual one. Plants have taught me patience, because waiting for a plant to root can take days, weeks, or even months. I don't know if anyone's tried the avocado thing, but that takes a long time. A while. Plants have taught me how to look after myself in a way that I look after them. And plants have taught me forgiveness by demonstrating resilience during neglect. Plants can teach us all the delicacy of growth and how we can transform ourselves by making sure that we have healthy roots. Something that I teach often in my repotting class, which is one of my most popular workshops, is the importance of soil, is the importance of nutrients, and how that can relate to actually taking care of yourself. So imagine if you were a plant and you were in a pot and you couldn't move. What would you need? What would you need from someone else? What would you need to give yourself? So I hope what you take from today, as well as if you are a future workshop goer, is to be able to slow down, to be able to focus and appreciate what you're working with, whether that's dirt or plants, or even just learning something new. Meeting new people in my workshops, as well as in places such as this, should never be taken for granted. As well as times with your family and your close friends, and doing something together that maybe steps outside of your comfort zone, or maybe gets into your comfort zone in ways that you didn't even know. As well as sharing with each other and continue to create a diverse community of plant lovers. We all have something in common. We generally have no idea what we're doing. And sometimes I feel like as long as I've been working with plants, I still have no idea what I'm doing. Sometimes, plants, tell people all the time, plants have been living way longer than we have, so sometimes you just gotta trust them and hope that they know how to figure this situation out. Sometimes the best care is neglect, so even neglecting a situation or a person or or anything that doesn't really need all of your attention and time at the moment, and seeing how things can grow organically. So one of the most important, to kind of change pace a little bit, but one of the most important things that are challenging us today, of course, is climate change and sustainability and how we can become more sustainability. And one of the core reasons why I started this company was also to help influence conscious decisions. I'm not saying that, we teach those kinds of things, but I always thought like having plants or beginning to have a relationship with plants can be a bridge for that. Most of the people who start collecting plants go into things like composting and, vermicompost and finding new and more interesting ways to do things naturally. Whether that comes from fertilizing your plants or tricks from home or warm water, sugar in the water, whatever it is. It just leads us to creating a better, more conscious lifestyle. However, I found in this journey that a lot of the time people equate having plants with being green. So I kind of want to talk about a little bit sustainability within plants, and how to become more sustainable as a plant parent. In retrospect, houseplants and sustainability are mutually exclusive. A lot of the time, people will market plants to you as being like fresh and green, and I'm sure you've all heard it, or even think of it yourself with like promoting good oxygen and clean air. However, plants are not as green as the chlorophyll that we love in their stems. And chlorophyll is what makes the plant green. And so, yes, sorry. I'm going wrong. From greenhouses to imports, some plants even come from places such as Costa Rica, traveling 3,000 kilometers to get into your local greenhouse or garden center. And how you can combat that is abstaining from large box stores, shopping locally. What a lot of people also don't know is soil. Does anyone know what soil is actually made of? And it's okay if you think it's a really obvious answer. No? Peat. Yes. Peat. Peat is the main component in most bag soil. And what peat is, it's actually a naturally occurring, they call it a disruptor, essentially, in the environment or in microenvironments, but not in a harmful kind of way. The real harm in peat is actually excavating it for horticulture use. Because it's not replenished at the same rate, it often leads to what's known as peat bogs, which are bogs that release carbon into the environment. There are some, you look so shocked, I'm sorry. There are some new companies that are coming up with sustainable ways of being, of having soil, but it's very small. And it's not to say that all of your bag soil is tainted. It's just a way for you to open up your eyes and just kind of see the full scope of this green lifestyle. As of 2020, in my company, not only do I shop locally, so when I go out and I shop for workshop plants and even for my installs, I do try to shop with Dutch growers and older companies that have been growing on Dutch soil, as well as have finally sourced some Netherlands-based sustainable soil, so peat-free. I'm hoping to make that more of a thing here in Holland, but you should know that I am making the steps, and so should you, so could you, by avoiding large box stores for your plants as well as cheap plants. Most of those plants are grown in big greenhouses, which are pumped with a lot of nutrients and things, and once it comes out of that and goes into your local IKEA or Praxis, they almost fail almost immediately because of the shock from going from such like this perfect environment into something that's less than perfect. Doing your research before buying a plant. A lot of the time plants are not only dying of overwatering, but it's insufficient light. So if you were to buy things such as, not buy things, but download it's called the Light Meter app. It's free. You can put it towards a window and actually measure the light before you go into your local intertown or garden center. And it actually helps you steer in the right direction. So most of the time it's all about the right plants in the right place, rather than making something look aesthetically beautiful. And don't give up. There are many ways to actually save your plants. How I started even obtaining so many plants, I think I have about 150 plants or something now, or so. I stopped counting. They come and they go. It's really important to know that there are so many ways to save a plant, and a lot of them end up on the streets, which I come and save. But by learning how to make cuttings and share cuttings is also the most sustainable way to have plants. So if you want to grow your collection, maybe ask a friend before going to the store. You never know who has a really awesome plant that you can learn to make cuttings out of. And it's also a really great way to build relationships. And my grandmother has cuttings that's probably older than me, and she still has plenty of them and just continues to give them away to her friends. So yeah, thank you all so much for being here. You can follow us. This is my website, and as well as on Instagram, I'm pretty active. I also answer questions and pictures and whatever you want to send me if your plant is not looking so great. I'm always open to accepting or helping you guys learn and grow. I think we are gonna start the Q&A. Cool. Does anyone have any questions?
I just wanted to ask about the app that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
About the light. What is it exactly?
It's called Light Meter app.
Light meter. Okay.
Yeah, it's free. It measures light in what's known as foot candles. You know, if you know what a foot candle is. But imagine if my finger was a candle, and each foot you get further and further. So this would be a low foot candle, and this would be a high foot candle, because you're closer to the light, which is making it more illuminated. It's the easiest way. It's measured mostly indoors from 0 to 25. 25 is extremely bright, and 0 is dark. Any other questions? Yeah.
I'm sorry if I missed this, but what was your reason for choosing Amsterdam?
What was my reason for choosing Amsterdam? That's an interesting story, actually. So I would say in 2016, I met someone on Facebook who was moving to Amsterdam in like 2 weeks, and she needed somewhere to stay. I was living in Brooklyn at the time, and I needed a roommate really quickly. She was moving, and I said, hey, let's see if we can work this out. She got to New York, and we became such good friends. Like almost immediately, we're still actually good friends to this day. And after she had finished her internship, she went back, and she came back and forth to New York, and she said, yeah, you should come to Amsterdam. And I was like all into my New York thing. I was like, nah, I'm good. I mean, yeah, sure, whatever. And then when I decided that I wanted to actually leave New York, I wrote down like a list of places and quality of living, income, all of these things. But the only thing I had in Amsterdam was a person, someone that I knew. So that kind of led my decision. Having someone that you know is just an easier transition when you're moving.
So I got this funny question on my badge that I want to ask you as well. If
Yeah.
I were a plant, I'd be. So which plant would you be and why?
Well, that's a tough one. Okay, I think I would be either like an Alocasia lauterbachchiana or or it's a great plant, highly recommended, LAUT. Or a Calicasia, black Calicasia. Yes, I really love black plants. That's it. I'd be a black plant. Sorry.
Where's a good place to buy plants?
Yeah,
Like,
that's
is
a good
IKEA
question.
really horrible, or is it?
I only save IKEA plants. So sometimes you see them like on the floor and stuff, and I'm like, I must bring you home. No, IKEA is. I've never bought an IKEA plant that didn't die. But really great places are in Amsterdam specifically. I love Cookie on the Klerkstraat in West. The Balcony, she's really great. She has 2 stores in East and West. There's, it's called Mooi Anders. It's also in West on the Bilderdijkstraat. Wilderness, yeah, on the Bilderdijkstraat. Yeah, it's so many, actually, like lots of small houseplant stores in that area. Same thing in the East. But yeah, those are some my favorites. Intertown I actually really like. It's just a bit overwhelming. And if you don't have like a trained eye, you might like just buy either terrible plants or too many plants, and yeah, it's just a hard place to shop. Yeah, I think that's it. Cool. Yes.
Could you recommend any really easy plants to have at home? Would be great for me.
Well, you actually have to start with your light. So I can say that a cactus is an easy plant, right? But cacti are desert plants and they need a lot of light. So if you have north-facing windows, which don't get any light, and you get a cactus, well, it's not that easy anymore. But plants like the ZZ plants and the snake plants, like mother-in-law's tongues, all the officey plants, Aglianiba are really easy. They're called like I have trouble now with like common names for plants. I'm like, oh yeah, that's it's like the dumb cane. That's what it is. That's the common name.
All right, thanks.
Those are quite easy. Yeah.
Would you like to tell us something about how this company helped you get rooted in Amsterdam?
Yeah.
Because you left New York, and then shortly after that something terrible happened in your personal life, and then you had to return. And I can imagine that working with plants helped you to find your place here.
Yeah, definitely working with plants helped me find my place here. I would give a lot of credit to the workshops. I've always wanted to have my own kind of like design agency with working with plants, but then being here, not knowing a soul outside of like one person, how do I get myself out there? How do I like say this is what I want to do? And that's what I did. I had knowledge and I shared that, and that kind of was like the seed that started to grow and grow and grow, and then I was actually doing everything that I wanted to do. So it may not have been like in the same steps that I had planned in my perfect life, but yeah, I would say that's definitely the workshops, meeting so many different people, and most of the people, when I was being asked to do them in the private settings, in public settings, as memberships clubs, that kind of just started being a domino effect of the people that I met. Even working with Nike, someone was sitting there and she thought about me for an event, and that person sees that, and it just started, it grows like a really rapid plant, I guess, at that sense. Even just standing in front of you guys is all just a part of grounding myself. So it was a journey, about almost 1.5 year, but my avocado seed, here I am. I made it. Any other question?
Yeah. So there is a study on plants. I don't know how valid it is, so I'd like your thoughts on it. Is that they got 2 plants and they put it in the same place and watered it the same. With one plant they gave it good vibes and said loving things, and with the other plant they swore at it, said hateful things at it. So after I read that, I tried that with my plants. Just for a short while, not long enough to see any effects. But I was just wondering what your thoughts.
No, I've seen the same study. I mean, I am no botanist. I am certified as a horticulturalist, but that's a little bit different in terms of like actually factually proving that something like that is true. But collecting so many plants, sometimes I genuinely just forget about them and I water them, but then I don't really give it the same kind of love and attention that I would like a brand new fresh plant. So I guess, yeah. I say all really nice things about my plants, so I don't really know.
What
But
happened with the study, like the
yeah.
one died
yes.
or-
one wound up dying,
Yes,
and the
yeah.
other one
died and
the other
flourished.
one was, yeah.
Even though they were given the same watering. and-
Yeah, there's also been some studies with music and how music can help plants grow and a lot of different things, but I think that just like equates to how we feel about ourselves too. Like if you're giving bad vibes to something or someone, you know, it's not gonna grow. Whereas if you're giving love and support to something, it will. So yeah, maybe it's just like a study of life.
But like talking about
Yeah.
what she said, I heard about like people they call it green hands. They're
Mhm.
good with plants.
Mhm.
And it's funny because I know friends that they really take care of their plants, but they always die. It doesn't matter. They give water, they follow the instructions, but they always die. And others they have green hands. The houses is just like a jungle, and then they do their kind of the same thing.
I really don't like to teach green hands. Like I feel like gardening is a skill that you learn to do. Japanese farmers even say it takes about 3 years for you to learn how to water a plant. And it's true. Even so, I mean, I went away to New York to visit my family for like 5 days. I was like, I'm gonna water all my plants. I came back, 2 of them died because I gave it too much water. Oops. But yeah, I mean, I would say that everyone has a different microclimate. Some plants actually thrive on neglect, some plants do not. So it's really about the type of plants you have, the type of light you have. There are certain, like some people who have like these big lush plants, they also may have really nice windows or really like perfect light. Like I personally can't keep an orchid alive, and there are some people who are great at it. Kudos if you're in the room, you're doing great. But yeah, I think of course like some things are a bit intuitive depending on how you were raised and where you come from. If you were more experienced with the natural world versus if you grew up in a big city. I don't think I ever had any natural talent. I killed all of my plants when I first got them, like every single one. I think I had the first plant that I bought dead. And then I was like, oh, I'm gonna keep doing this and dying, bugs, this, that, and the third. So yeah, I mean, some people do get lucky, but I really think that it's a skill and something that you keep learning and building. And even all my friends who are really into plants, sometimes it's just like, yeah, I don't know, they just died. They gave up. But I think the too much love thing, I've definitely heard it quite often, and it's all about finding the plant for you too. Like, for example, if you love to love your plants, maybe you should go for things like ferns and things that really need that kind of attention. Whereas if you don't want to take care of your plants, there are plants for you as well. So yeah, just working backwards a bit.
Do you have bonsai
No.
What do you think about that?
They're nice. Like, I think the art of bonsai is very beautiful, but it's just not my style. Yeah. Well, I don't. Yeah, and I also don't have the space for like. I think it's like a table. Anyone else? Yeah.
A non-plant question. I'm curious, living away from home
Mhm.
and then sort of coming from like having no connection, building a business, and then having all this sort of like in front of you and all this potential. Do you feel like in a weird position in terms of feeling like, oh, maybe does building my business and having success make it harder to go back home, and like do you feel like there's sort of a tug between the two where obviously you want to have success, but it also means probably that you're making it harder to turn back and go back to New York.
Yeah, I mean, I've been back to New York a couple of times since I've been here, and I don't know, maybe I'm still in the first couple of years of living in a new place where I want to find a new place home. I mean, I did a hard reset. And I'm not yet ready to move back. I do think that it is a weird position because I am building this business and I do have a lot of potential in front of me, but I don't really have the people that I love around me to share that with. And that's probably the hardest part. Of course, we have like things like social media and stuff, so it's like, whatever. People can still see, but it's just a different kind of success. It can be a bit isolating, so even as an expat or someone who is building a business alone in a new place, it is quite isolating, so I do find solace in like the teaching the workshops and doing events and being out here and inspiring other people. But I don't know if I'm ready to move back to New York. I mean, things aren't really getting better in the Americas. I really like it here. I feel like it's not big anymore, and I feel I really enjoy impacting people the way that I do. I like seeing people sometimes. Like, I was even at a club once, and someone's like, "PLANTMOM!" And I was like, "Yeah!" Hey, you know? So yeah, I don't know if I'm ready to ponder that question yet, but yeah, it can be a little bit hard. Yeah.
So if you didn't have a thing for plants, what else would you choose?
I don't know. I think for the longest time before I found plants, before I was trying to figure it out. I mean, I went to school for fashion business and visual merchandising. I was like, no, this isn't it. And then I was a florist. I was like, nope, this isn't it. And I was like, maybe I'll try like jewelry making. Nope, didn't want it. I was trying all of these things from working as like a production assistant. I was like, maybe I want to like work on movies. No, I don't. And yeah, so I think, I don't know, to be honest. I'd probably still just be trying to figure it out what I was going to do in my life. Yeah. Plants was like, this is it. This is it right here.
Plants in the office, I think people like them because it helps with productivity.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, what's the link with productivity, do you think?
So what exactly is the question? What the link is? There is definitely a link between productivity or how people are able to produce work when plants are around. It's kind of related to biophilic design. Are you familiar with biophilia at all? Biophilia is a hypothesis based on the study that humans are more attracted to things that are alive, such as plants, nature, animals, things. So based on that hypothesis, we draw conclusions such as like being linked to wellness and well-being and mental health and improving mood and balance as well as rest. There's been not only just recent studies, but this is going back many, many, many years, even back to Japan, which has a really long relationship with botanical gardens and the natural world where they do forest bathing. So it's a type of healing in which you go into very beautiful forests and you sit for a while. And it's an actual practice. I think it's called Shinrin Yoku. Yeah. And so there's definitely a connection there. It's not proven, but I mean, we all love plants, don't we? Any last questions? Is that it? Oh.
Does your website have any connections where people can do trades, like say, or do you know of any where you say, I have this, this, and this, garden wise or plants or vermiculture,
Mhm.
and they can hook up with people who are in need of that or looking for that?
My website does not, but there are a couple of organizations that do it, like City Plot. They're a lovely group of women who would have more in connection with that. I do a little outdoor, but most of my specialty is inside. But Too Good To Go is also a pretty good, popular website. I've been told that you can even put like your dying or big house plants on there if anybody wants to take it. So you definitely try that too.